Sambutlah hari ini, hari yang dinanti, bersama berkreasi unjuk diri.
Wahai seniman muda, mari berkarya, tunjukkan pada dunia.
Bersama isi Yogyakarta, bersinergi dan bertradisi, di bawah panji Saraswati, menjadi insan seni berprestasi.
berdua bersama dalam keberagaman, gapai masa depan bersama PKKMB isi Yogyakarta.
Wahai seniman muda, mari berkarya, tunjukkan pada dunia.
Bersama isi Yogyakarta, bersinergi dan bertradisi, di bawah panji Saraswati, menjadi insan,
Menjadi insan,
menjadi insan seni berprestasi.
matahari datang, bulan telah pergi. Sambutlah hari ini, hari yang dinanti, bersama berkreasi unjuk diri.
Wahai seniman muda, mari berkarya, tunjukkan pada dunia.
Bersama isi Yogyakarta, bersinergi dan bertradisi, di bawah panji Saraswati, menjadi insan seni berprestasi. Sambutlah hari ini, hari yang dinanti, bersama berkreasi unjuk diri.
Wahai seniman muda, mari berkarya, tunjukkan pada dunia.
Bersama isi Yogyakarta, bersinergi dan bertradisi, di bawah panji Saraswati, menjadi insan seni berprestasi.
dua bersama dalam keberagaman gapai masa depan bersama PKKMB isi Yogyakarta.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to International Craft Day and International Fashion Day. It's third year's the craft department from Faculty of Visual Arts, ISI Yogyakarta, hosting international craft, and this is our second year hosting international fashion.
First of all, and our praises to God Almighty, because of His kindness, we all can gather here today on 22nd February 2022 in Institut Seni Indonesia Yogyakarta.
We would like to thank you to all amazing speakers from around the world that willing to take a part in this event. We also want to say thank you to our honorable dean and staff, honorable guests, lecturers, and all participants that come together today to join this event in Ajiasa conference room.
We also would like to say thank you to our university partner, LaSalle College of the Art, Telkom University, Ibero-Americana University, University Teknologi Mara, and Hunan Institute of Science and Technology. I am Krista Justin.
And I am Diaretno Fitriani.
We will be guiding for the rest of our event today until later in the afternoon. And we will also still going to meet you guys tomorrow. So keep up the spirit and the excitement because our event is still long and not near the finish yet.
This year's our International Craft Day and Fashion Day, theme of our event is the voice of object and the rise of post-pandemic fashion style. Through this time, we want to send message that craft is not only just practical function, but craft can deliver message from the maker to the audience.
Our next session for today is setting session. And I believe that everyone has been waiting for this session today. And I know everyone has been excited too, because our first speaker is actually from another continent. She is from Ibero-Americana University, Mexico.
Recording in progress.
Gomez. And then we have the head of Cooperative Small and Medium Enterprise and Trade Office Bantul, Mr. Agus Sulistiana. And last but not least, Mr. Martin Boni from LaSalle College of the Art Singapore. This setting session will be moderated by Miss Alfie, our beloved lecturer from ISI Yogyakarta. So without further ado, we will give the time and place to Miss Alfie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the master of ceremony today. Thank you to Ibu Dia and Mbak Caca. Okay, but first of all, of course, I would like to greetings all of the audience here, virtually and not virtually, here on the Ajiasa conference room today. To my beloved students, of course, my colleges and my university partner, etc. And of course, I would like to greet the audience virtually during by Zoom. And for my distinguished guests today, of course, my first speaker is, hello, Cynthia, are you there? Cynthia?
Yes, here I am. Thank you.
Where are you?
Here I am.
Oh, hi.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, I have to say, como está, and then you can say, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's kind of like torture for you, yeah, because for your information, the audience here now is what time is it now in Mexico?
12:22.
Oh my God, it's midnight, yeah, in
Midnight.
Mexico. Okay,
Past midnight.
yeah. So sorry for interrupting your midnight time.
Don't worry.
Also, today is your birthday or yesterday?
It was yesterday, yeah,
Okay.
just end.
So
And
happy
it was a
birthday.
long,
So
and it was a long
everyone,
week.
everyone, please say happy birthday to Cynthia. See,
Happy birthday,
oh
Cynthia.
wow.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah, well, in Indonesian we say selamat ulang tahun, like feliz cumpleaños, selamat ulang tahun. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I think we just gonna start the sharing session because it's a little bit late, but you know it's kind of like hard to start really on time. So as a moderator, I'm gonna tell the audience first a little bit about you, only a little bit, because of course you can tell about yourself by your own self later on. Okay. So
Okay.
let me write. Oh no, let me read. Okay, Cynthia. Oh, sorry. Professor Cynthia Gomez Ramirez, apologize if I have a mistake to pronounce your name, from Ibero-Americana University in Mexico City, right? And she's graduated in textile design, master in business administration from EPAID, I don't know how to pronounce it, business school. And she studied fashion, marketing, lifestyle trends, sustainable fashion, textile experiments in Central St. Martin's, London, England. And she has received a recognition as the best designer of the year by the FIMODA organization, considered among the 50 successful women in Mexico by the Expansion Group and the Universal newspaper. And she founded her own company in 1996, in which she designs and markets her homonymous brand, which has specialized in knits textile for fashion and the home. And I think that's all I can tell about yourself, because again and again, I think it's better if you can talk by your own self. Okay. And then, yeah, you can start if you have anything like slides or anything that you want to share, you can do it
Of
right
course.
now. Yeah, totally. Time is yours, and you have like more or less 30 minutes from now.
Okay, great.
Thank
you. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you, Albi, for this invitation. I'm very honored to be here. As you know, as you just said, it's very late here in Mexico City, but I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you to the craft department, Faculty of Visual Arts, for this invitation. I'm very glad to be here. I hope my English is well with all of you, because I have like an American accent and it's like a very difficult sometimes to understand. So if I speak a little bit faster or something you don't understand, please ask me so I can say it with another words, right?
Sure.
So-
But your English is totally clear, totally fine.
Okay, if you have any question, please stop me and you can ask me whatever you want. I'm going to share my presentation. Also, you have it over there, Albi, but let me.
Your slide?
Yeah, my slides. I'm going to share it. Do you see it?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, let me put it full screen. There you go. Let me put it this. Dun, dun, dun. Wait, dun, dun, dun. Let's see, wait. I can see that. Okay, today I want to talk about an art craft that had been used for centuries in Mexico. This one has a voice in its technique, and it's a symbolism, and it's called the backstrom loop or the waist loop. When I was very little, I went to a trip with my parents to the south of Mexico, and I was very impressed with when I saw this kind of loop. Not only because the complex that is weaving with this loop, but also that this kind of weaving is usually done only by women, because in a few towns in Mexico, there are only women that can weave with this kind of loom. So the men are not allowed to weave with this loom. So for me, it was very impressed that I could only see women weaving in all these towns. So I was very impressed to see that. And also, let me start. As you can see in this picture, the backstrom loom is an ancient Mesoamerican lightweight. It's a portable tool that you can put it in when you use it, you can just roll it and then put it in a part of your home. That has helped women through the countless generation weave and create their attire. They usually weave all their textiles in this kind of loom, sitting in the floor or in their knees. So you can see in the picture. The way of weaving and the components are almost the same in the most of indigenous country, in the indigenous area, differing from each other in the style or in the symbolism of the drawings, and they represent for each one. Each town has their own techniques. You can see it in all the country, all in Mexico City. All in Mexico, you can see the different kind of textiles done in this waist loom with different symbols, different colors, and different materials from the textiles. And it's very interesting. If you go to the south, you can see different with the same waist loom. You can see different embroideries, different colors, different kind of weight of the same textile. The backstrom loom is tied to the end of the tree. So you have one side of the loom that goes in the tree or in a stick, in a high stick. And the other end of the loom go and wrap in the waist of the artisan, that it's called mecapal. And in the picture, you can see they are in their knees weaving in this kind of loom. And it's very, very, very beautiful to see that. You will see it later on. So as you can see in the picture, the white variety has different diversity with the necessary adjustments to achieve the desired width and length, creating these rectangular canvases of different sizes that come out of the loom. The width of the textile cannot be more than 70 or 80 centimeters, because the artisan says that it depends on the width of the weaver's hips, who is making the textiles. But the real thing is that it's very hard and it's almost impossible to weave a bigger canvas or a bigger textile because of the length of the arms. If it's too wide, they cannot allow you to pass the weft into the loom. So they cannot cut, so they cannot do it and they cannot weave it because it's too wide. So that's why we can only see these textiles in the width of 70 or 80 centimeters. So they cannot cut it. You have this canvas that is a rectangular canvas that come in different length, but not in a huge wide. It's a small one. So they cannot cut this canvas. If they need a bigger textile, they have to sew it, and they put like 1 or 2 or 3 textiles to do like a bigger textile. So it's a very, very nice way to do and respect a textile that it's with in this kind of loom. So these canvases, the one that I told you before, that it's a rectangular canvas, are adjusted, accommodated, knotted, or rolled in the body to cover it in different ways. So it depends in the part that in Mexico that you are. It could be like a blouse, like a shirt, or it could be like a skirt. It depends how you roll it into the body, but it's made with this waist loom. This weaving technique allows the fabric to be closed in the 4 points, because you start in the beginning and then you have the ends in the extremes, and then at the end of the loom you can close it. So you have the four sides closed together. I'm going to show you a video where you can see this like in a more detailed way. So in this video, you saw the different types of textiles and the different width in each kind of community. Let me show you. I'm going to talk to you a little bit of history. It is believed that the moment of the appearance of the waist loom coincides with the moment of the transition from the nomadism to the agriculture. That is the moment when the sedentary life of the peoples began. That's what we think, that all the Aztecs and the Mayan, that were the first civilization in Mexico, starts with the weave in this waist loom that we usually nowadays still using in our communities or in our indigenous communities. In other way, the trace of the domestication of the cotton in the area of the 5,000 and 4,000 before Christ to this Mexico, to this nowadays in Mexico, there are various colors of cotton and 79 of diversity of magueys, of cactus, and both are used in weaving. Nowadays, we're still using this kind of cotton and cactus in our textiles. We have different kinds of cotton, as you see in the picture. We have this this brown cotton that is very beautiful that we use in this kind of waist looms, and also the white ones. And we also dyed with natural colors. We still dyeing with natural colors from plants, insects, or seeds. We have this beautiful natural red color that comes from some insects that lives in a cactus. And when they are crushed, they produce this intense red color that is used to dye the thread or the textiles that are weaved in the waist loom. So we're still in these communities using these ancestral techniques to dye with these different kind of colors, or use these materials like the cotton as you see in the picture. Also, for me, it's very important for you to know what are the different components of this waist loom. So we have these two central rods that are in the bottom, that are the ones that wrap, you know, all the warp and the threads. They put the threads in the warp and pass with the Julius or Julius, we call it, to separate, are the separator of the rods. The mecapal is the band, this one, that it's in the red color, that it's the one that supports the body of the artisan through the waist. So you have the artisan in rolling, wrapping this mecapal or this band. And in the end, in the top, it's, the end that it's gonna tight the loom. And also there are very important materials that we use, the tools, that it's called, this one, it's called the machete, and it's the one that can tight all the process of the weave. Also we have this one that it's called the liso, that it's the one that lifts the threads so you can pass between them the threads, and it can make all the crosses that can weave and insert, all the weft. To return the thread, we have the other one, that it's the paso, and who is the one that can change the process of the thread that make the warp. It's a little bit complicated, but maybe you can see it in here, that it's how they create the warp as a piece. When it comes, it wrap all this, it's called the wrapper, and the thread pass around the rods, making like an 8. You will see another video that is more like to have more examples where you can watch it better. But this is the right one, the picture, where you can see this 8 that they make, so they can weave in this kind of waist loom. Also, when these threads are placed in the Julius to be combined and arranged correctly, they have to create a very, very mathematic wrap, so they can weave with it. Then, it's formed, this vara is formed, which the threads will allow the crosses, and they create the wave. So in other ways, the weaving involves a series of steps that are repeated and repeated and repeated each time. So they allow the first cross, then the vara liso is raised to return the cross, and then the machete is used, I think twice, and is used to tighten the cross, readapting this process over and over and over to the canvas, starts taking form until it becomes a completed piece. So it's like more like a mathematic method. So it's very, very like passes through and thirsts. Let me go to another one. Let me show you this video. Let me take the audio off so you can see it. Okay, in this video, you will see that the waste loom shows the identity of each community. Each piece is made by hand, and these tools that you can see are, all of them are need to weave. So you have all these small sticks and huge sticks that can be used to weave in the waste loom. So everything in this loom is mathematic. As you saw in the picture before, this is the wrapper where you are making the H cross, and they have, all the artisans have to think before they wrap, or how does the textile will look. And after that, they make all these wraps. And then with these two sticks, that is these rods, they make the wrap so they can weave all the textile. As you see, the artisans not only counts doing the work, they also count all the threads when they are weaving, because everything it's going to have, you know, like a different design, and they have to think about how it will look at the end. These are the two in Julius, where they put all the threads, and you can see in this one, the machete that is in the middle. And also this is the liso, where it wants that it's gonna separate the threads, where you can cross the thread and then start weaving. It's like a very handmade technique with all these sticks. It's very complicated when you start doing this. I have done it twice, or a lot, not twice, a lot of times. I have this weaving technique, do it with artisan, and in the first time it's very difficult to get all this thread because it gets all crossed together. But then you start like doing like a rhythm with them, and you get it. Also, it's very interesting because they not only weave like a simple thread in there or weave, they do brocade, and they put a lot of symbols in their textiles. They take symbols from the flowers, from the nature, from the flowers, from the animals, and also from the universe, from the stars. It's very interesting. If you go to, like I said before, to a different towns or a different part of Mexico, you can see these textiles with all these different symbols that they put in these textiles. It depends on the white, it depends on the colors, as I told you before, the materials. They use cotton, and also they use wool. So this is the technique where they use, and they start doing like different kinds of symbols. Let me talk you, because I know I have small time, a little bit time. The cosmovision, it's very important for me that you can understand the cosmovision, how the indigenous perceive this cosmovision about the weave, how we communicate, how we understand the world and the universe around us is very different from all the cultures, and from indigenous, from the Aztecs and also the Mayans, have different cosmovisions about the weave. This is created through abstraction and is reflected in all aspects of our lives, which leads us into how in the pre-Hispanic cultures, the textiles meant more than a simple technique to produce fabrics. It's not only that they produce fabrics or textiles for covering their bodies. They have this connection with the nature, with their cosmovision. It was considered as a sacred gift that the gods granted to women, even having deities considered as the patrons of spinners, weavers, or embroiderers. That's what I told you at the start of this lecture, that's why I was impressed, because only women could weave in this waist loom in Mexico, because it's a cosmovision, and this is a gift that the gods granted, that the woman was granted of the gods. So, for example, the goddess of the moon Ixchel gave the waist looms to the woman along with the gift of weaving, and her daughter Ixchel Shahaz was the patron saint of the embroidery. So one was woman was given the gift of weaving, and the other one, the daughter of the embroidering. So the heritage of this art right nowadays is transmitted from grandmothers to mothers, and then mothers to children since they are very, very young. They practically grow and develop between the threads and the looms. So it's very beautiful to visit this town, these native people, and get with them. And you can see the grandmother, the mother, and the granddaughter weaving together, in this, in outside the houses, in tied in the tree, and doing all these textiles, all these fabrics with this symbolism. And now I'm going to talk about the symbolism. And while the craft technique is extremely important, as I told you before, humans are the symbolic beings, which means that the colors, designs, and forms have greater meanings in each piece. It is likely that the symbology comes from the hunter-gatherers. For example, these rhombuses that you can see, even if it's the green one or the yellow, are an important part of the Mayan brocades, and they're related to the way of seeing the world in the constant movement and as symbols of fertility. So you can see this in all the textiles in the south of Mexico, mostly in the Mayan culture, all these rhombus that identify with fertility of the woman. And also, there's another symbol that appears a lot in these brocades, that it's called the quinquins. This sign represents the universe, time and space, and it's the axis from which the four directions of the universe depart, and its center represents exact meeting point between heaven and earth and underworld. We saw it in this kind of rock that you see in the left of the picture, and the symbol in the waist loom, like you can see in this embroidery, is the same, and it's related, between itself with the 4 points and the center, the head where it goes. So it's the one they represented. You can see it in the pyramids, on like in different kinds of sculptures that they were found. And then you can also see it in the textiles that are made nowadays. So how can we translate this to visual arts? As I told you, we have these textiles, this cosmovision from the indigenous community of the native people. But we have another one. This is Carla Fernandez. This is a Mexican artist that works alongside with the craftsmen, weavers, embroiderers, wood carvers, dyers to create contemporary pieces with traditional techniques. In the pictures, you can see textiles made with these waist looms, but in a contemporary way. She works hand in hand with this crafter, with these indigenous communities in all Mexico City, with the different states in Mexico. And she made all this kind of attires that are used to be part of a museum, and also like a contemporary fashion. So they are made with all of them, or mostly of them are made with natural colors, and are made with this technique that it's this rectangular canvases made with these waist looms, with the techniques of the artisans that make it. So that's how the objects have like these symbols, and they get together with the arts and also with artisans. Let me show you a video of the past Fashion Week here in Mexico that she presents his collections. So in this video, you can see all this connection with the art and with the artisan. So her work has been exhibited in different museums, as I'll tell you, in like Victoria and Albert Museum in London, Isabella Stewart Garden in Boston, in Mexico in 2 museums, and in San Francisco and New York, and also in Rhode Island. So as you can see in the pictures, this is the connection with the artisan, with the native people that make, have all this cosmovision of the waste loom, with the colors, with the symbolism of the culture, of the identities, and how she connected with the contemporary art in all the ways, not only in the attire, in the fashion, in the construction of the garments, also in the way she presents all these different kind of cultures of Mexico. All the things that she presents, it's done with artisan in all Mexico, and also all the different objects that she presents as well. They are talking about this cosmovision and this like visual arts. So this millenary craft has been reevaluated into contemporary work through the steady relationship between the designer and the artisan. As you can see in this slide, in the left hand, you can see the interpretation of Carla Fernandez, and in the right hand, sorry, and in the left hand, I think it's your left, you can see the artisan wearing their own textile and their own attire with all this symbolism and the color of the community she is from Chiapas, from the south of Mexico. And you can see how you can work together like a collaboration, so you can have like this connection. So nowadays, the work of the backstrap loom, or the waist loom, as it's called here in Mexico, has been dignified in the pieces made by artisans and in the pieces co-created with designers, such as Carla Fernandez and other. In Mexico, there are a lot of Mexican designers that are working with artisans who seek to recover ancestral techniques and traditions from the Mexican indigenous and their cosmovision. So here we have, in Mexico, we have a lot of designers. I also work for the University of Iberoamericana in Mexico City. I'm the chair of the fashion and textile career program. And we have a lot of our designers that work together with artisans, and they're making not only fashion, but also they are making objects and different kind of things in collaboration with them. So that's how we have like different voices of objects, and we are reevaluating the technique of the waist loom. As you saw before, it's very complicated because you have a lot of threads, but it's very, very nice, and it's beautiful to understand the symbolism of each textiles that they weave each day. So this is the end of my lecture. Thank you very much. Terima hashis. This is my email, and thank you very much, Aldi.
Okay, thank you so much. I have to say sama-sama. When you say terima kasih, we say sama-sama, like dinada, Thank you so much. Okay, Cynthia, we will a little bit change the plan, because before we will have a question and answer after all of these three speakers. But since we are thinking that our time difference too much for you, so we're gonna have a question right after your session. Is that okay, too? I think it's better for you. Right?
Great for me.
Yeah, sure. So you can rest. Yeah,
because tomorrow I have classes at 7:00.
Oh my God, so sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so please, if you have any questions from this audience, or because I don't see any from the chat column, so questions, Mbak Rika?
I don't know if it was clear for everyone over there.
Sorry?
I don't know if it was clear for everyone.
Yeah, to me it's clear. Yeah, I think so. But your pronunciation is so clear. Yeah. Okay. So the audience here, maybe for your information, the audience here is most of us are like a lecturer from our faculty of visual art, especially from the craft department, and also students. Yeah, the students. And also we have like a professional art maker, like a craftsman, like craft maker. So it's like diverse. Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Yeah. Okay, one question from you.
Thank you, Bu Alfi.
Yes,
Good night, Cynthia Gomez. Good to see you here. Okay, I have a question for you. I think you know about Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We also have like artwork like that you show to us. But my question is, what is material that you use for the craftsmanship over there? The one question first. The first question is what one material, and which of part the Mexico, the people like center of the craft in the Mexico. Thank you. It's clear for you?
Yeah.
the question?
The first question was about the material.
Material, that's right. Yeah. The
Material.
second is what the city, what the area, the center of the craft in the Mexico. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The material that we use, well, the artisan use, they are mostly they use cotton. It depends on the state that they live. They use cotton in the south, and also they use wool. But nowadays, because it's very expensive, the natural materials, the natural yarns, they use acrylic, no, or they start using polyester. So it's like for all the Mexicans, it's like when you arrive to these towns and you see they working, some of them are working with synthetic materials. It's like you want to kill them. It's like, no, don't use it. Change it to natural fibers. So we have a lot of foundations and universities that are working with them so they can use, or they return to use natural materials. But they use cotton or wool. And in the other, and for the second question, we have this waste loom in all Mexico. We have in Chiapas, in the state of Chiapas. We have it in Oaxaca. We have it in the center. It's more. Let me tell you more, because Mexico is very big. So we have in the center, we have it in the south, and also in the east and in the west. No, we use this kind of loom. In the north, we use more like a huge loom. More like, it's not like a waist loom, it's more like the usual loom that we have, more like a wood loom. Did you understand this?
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's like we use it more like in the center, and in the south we use this waist loom.
So hard to you to get the original, organic material right now.
It's hard. It's hard for them. It's not so hard. It's expensive.
Expensive, okay.
It's expensive. So
okay.
when they need to choose, if they buy, like a natural fiber or a synthetic fiber, maybe it's the double of or the triple to buy a natural fiber than to buy like a synthetic. So they choose like a synthetic. So it's like, don't use it, because the value of this textile that maybe can take 5 weeks, or it depends, maybe it can take 1 month or 2 months weaving for a textile. If you make it in synthetic fibers, it's going to be a very low cost, either if you weave it in natural fibers. So we all the foundations and the university talks with them and have all this like talks with them, so they can invest more with natural fibers, so they got like a bigger value.
Okay, so please come to Indonesia, because we read about material. You can choose any, but yes, please come.
Of course.
Maybe sometime you can teach my student here.
Of course.
If possible, we invite you to come here. Just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's very difficult, but it has been a very long way working with them, because we have like different foundation in Mexico that we work like foundation, university, and with the communities, and we get inside and work together so we can reevaluate this. So we have a lot of designers working with them, doing this kind of collection, as you saw before, like Carla Fernandez, and other designers that work together, that are exporting to Europe and to USA and to a lot of countries, with this upgrade of connection with artisans and designers working together with this kind of materials and colors, natural colors that are very expensive. So they work together, so they have like a better product for the market.
Okay. I think one more question. Is that okay for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. One of my students, and Yes, she's actually the master of ceremony today. Chacha, come on.
Hello, Miss Cynthia. Can you hear me? Okay. Culturally speaking, you said that this method of making fabric is used only by women there. But nowadays, do men there also learn how to make this loom, or is it just still for women because it's just make in small cities? I guess yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, it's very difficult because it's like a culture. It's cultural, and there are few men doing this kind of weave, but it's very controversial. It's like a if you see a man in the community, if you see a man weaving, it's like the other man's like, oh, what are you weaving? It's like a work for women. But now we have, like all these human rights of women, women rights, and we have like men rights in this community, where we have these men that are increasing the voice, speaking loud, we said in Mexico, so they can weave. But this is happening almost in the south of Mexico. We have one community, or twice, two or three communities in Oaxaca, in another state, that they have men weaving in this kind of loom. But it's in another state of Mexico, in another town, where you can see men do it. But in the south, where the Maya lives, in the south of Mexico, where you have all these pyramids, Chichen Itza, the big pyramids of Mexico that we have, you almost see women weaving. It's not good saying men weaving because of the culture of them. They are trying to, they're trying to change, but it's so much in the cosmovision, as I told you before, that it's, it's a gift for the woman. And if you have a man in there doing it, it's like you go against the God. So it's like a different, so we have to cross these borders if we want to change it. But I don't know if they want to change it. Here, it's like a very thin line. When we work with communities, we have like a very thin line, like a contemporary view of like a designer or a teacher, a professor. We cannot change the cosmovision of that communities, of that culture. We come as we live in the same country, we have like a different visions. The people that live in the city have different culture than the ones that live in these communities that comes from the Mayas, of the Aztecs, or the other ones, the Huicholes or Raramuris. We have a lot of communities. We have like 64 different communities in Mexico with different languages, and different identities. So it's not fair that if you live in the city, that you have like different education, that go there and try to change the way they look like. So we learn in these years that we have been working with them, that we have to respect them. We have to respect their identity, their cultural, all the cosmovision that they have. So if we want to help them, we help them with materials, we help them with techniques, new techniques, we help them doing like more different products so they can sell it in the contemporary market. That's the way we work with them. We don't work with them changing even, their houses, even, the way they dress, or even the way they eat. So we respect these communities as they are, and then we work in a different way with them. give them work, because they ask for work. So we give them work, we give them the tools so they can learn, the things that in the contemporary market they can sell for tourists or for something, but without changing the way they dress, the way they live, and the way they have the conception of the world. So that's the thing that as a contemporary people that we live in the cities, we have to work with them, not changing. And for us as students, when I take my students to that community, because I won't lie to you, but there are a lot of students that live in Mexico City, that were born in Mexico City, that they have never in their whole life visit a community in Mexico. That we have a lot of communities. So when they get to the university, we make a trip to these communities so they can learn about them. They can learn about this connection with the nature, that when you live in a city as Mexico City, that we have like 20 million people living here, it's like you don't have this connection with the nature as you have in Indonesia. We have, another connection with the concrete and with the cars and with the contamination. But we will have very far away, we have connection with the nature. So we take our students to them, and the first thing they want to change, them their houses, they want to change them the way they eat, the way they are wearing, they're dressing. So we have to prepare them before they go to this trip, so they can respect them as a part of our identity as Mexican people. So I think it's very important, that part, so we can still have these communities as Mexican people, so we can still have this cultural, join together. I don't know if I answer your question.
That's enough, Miss. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I know you're very tired, but I'm curious about one thing. Is that
Yes,
okay? One more
yeah.
question from you. Only one. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said that your students who live in Mexico City, it's a big city, it's very cosmopolitan, yeah, never went to the community. So how far is that from the Mexico City to the community?
We have communities very close, Aldi.
Oh, really?
Very, very close.
And they
Mexico-
never been there. Your students never been there.
It's like you have community maybe like in half an hour, maybe an hour, or maybe you can go to the south of Mexico, that you have to take a plane, an airplane. So you can go there for maybe like 4 hours or 3 hours. You can go to another one by bus in 6 hours, but you have it very close, and they have never been there. So it's like they stay here, even to downtown of Mexico. Because our university, it's in another part of it's far away from downtown. So when you ask them, have you ever been to downtown of Mexico City? Say, no, I have never been there. And say, really? So where have you been living? So we have to it's not that all the students are like this. There are few students that live like in a bubble. So you have to, break this bubble so they can see all the reality and the difference that we have in Mexico, that we have a lot of poorness here in Mexico and a lot of riches in Mexico. So we have these different positions in Mexico that we need to change it. So the way we can change it is understanding our past, so we can change it. We can change the way the contemporary or the urban people think in Mexico, so we can have this difference get more together with the communities and with the people that lives in the cities.
Yeah, actually, I've been to Mexico. That was in 2015. And I've been to Americana as well. It's a very big city. It's like huge, it's very big compared to Yogyakarta. And but the thing that I like most from like really impressed me a lot is like the diversity of the arts and culture, like the colors. We have very a similar situation. Like as you said, you have so many like many kinds of languages, and we also here in Indonesia we have how many tribes? How many tribes we do have? Like 700 tribes. Yeah, yeah, we have like
700. Okay.
yeah, more or less. Yeah, I'm not sure. And of course, the languages. We have our like very different accent and meaning as well. And of course, that represents have an influence to the art and culture that we make. Because from one island to another island, usually we have different thing. And I think I found that similarity in Mexico, like Mexican art. Yeah, so yeah, hopefully you can visit us someday.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And also we have
Yeah,
we have
sure.
we have a problem that we are close to the States, to United
Mhm.
States.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have like the people in the city always like to get similar like the States, like the way the United States are, doing things. So and we forget about our identity in the community. So that is the point that we have in Mexico. So in this in the university that I work is like it's very important for us that the students know where they come from and don't forget which culture they are and their identity and the symbols and the things, because that's the way we can have our own identity.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree. Okay, in Indonesia, the young generation know more about K-pop. The
Hmm.
K-pop. Yeah,
They use
they do
K-pop.
love K-pop. Okay.
Yeah, they're learning Korean, and they say you don't have to learn Korean. What you need to learn more the Mayan, no, the other languages that are part of your culture. No,
Okay. Yeah. More question? No. I think poor Cynthia. Yeah, she must be really want to go to bed. Yeah.
don't worry, it's okay.
Yeah.
I
No.
talk
What
a
time
lot.
is it now? What time is it now
I
over
hope you
there?
understand me. I hope
Yeah.
you understand.
Yeah. I mean, poor you. I mean, it's really our. We are really apologize for that situation. Okay. I don't think there is more questions from the audience. More
I want
questions,
to ask
Marika?
you, Afi,
Oh yeah, sure.
next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Priyo.
Mas Priyo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a question from the audience, like, yeah, and he actually the best jewelry designer and maker in
Thank
Yogyakarta,
you.
Cynthia.
Wow.
Yeah, please do, Mas Priyo.
Yeah, my question is connected with the silver matters, Cynthia, because I am a silver designer, and then I want to ask you if you know, but of course, yeah, about the situation and silver industry in Mexico, because I know that Mexico has a silver producer too, and it says same as Indonesian. We send the product to USA and to other countries too. But in Indonesia, we have difficulties because of the crisis in 2008 and now because of the COVID too. So I want to ask about you, not about the textile or what you say on this time, but I want to ask you about the situation on silver business, if you know, if you in your country. I think this is my question. Thank you.
I'm really not familiar with the silver industry. I know there are a lot of designers and artisans here in Mexico that work with the silver. I know that there's a lot of conflict with the mines of silver in Mexico because we have a huge silver mines in Mexico, and I know that they were given to some Canadian companies.
Yeah.
And this president that we have right now closes a lot of there were a lot of contracts in
Yeah.
the silver industry.
Uh-huh.
So they cancel these contracts. And
Mm.
now there is a lot of conflict in the silver industry about this.
Yeah.
And that's why all the prices rise of the silver in Mexico.
Mhm.
And that's the only thing I know. I know there are a lot of Mexican designers that are suffering with the high price of the silver.
Mhm.
And also in Mexico is very cheap, the silver. You know, I know that it's cheaper, but right now it's very expensive. So I think it's the thing that we have this problem. And also we have like an accident. Like I think a month ago,
Mhm.
we have an accident in a mines, in a silver mine, that some miners get into the mine, and the mine get full of water,
Mhm.
so they died in the mine. So there were, like, here in Mexico we have a crisis in that thing, in that field.
Mhm.
So it's the most thing that I know, because it's not my field, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I know that it's a huge problem, because this contract of the foreign companies, and this president like more to have it in Mexico. So the companies have to be Mexican. So it's like this conflict in the mine industry. I don't know if I answer your question, but
Yeah, but it's helped me to understand more about Mexican. I mean, you said that the silver business decreased, yeah?
uh-huh.
Understand.
Has
Understand.
decreased because of the mine problems, because the contract, there was like a Canadian, I remember there was a Canadian company that owns like a huge mine, and also a Mexican mine wanted to sell it. So the government closed, canceled this contract. So it was like it's like a very
Big problem from the base.
problem.
Yeah, from the mining. Yeah.
The mining problem, yeah, it's a mining problem here, and we have a lot of silver here in Mexico. So I think there are a lot of the interest of politicians, working in there. So it's like a conflict, a very huge conflict.
Yes. Thank you for your answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Mas Priyo, for the question. I think, we can end the session with you.
I
so
thank you,
much.
Aldi.
We say terima kasih banyak. Yeah, thank you so much. Muchas
Thank
gracias.
you.
Hopefully, one day again, our hopes that you can visit us here in Yogyakarta, as Yogyakarta known as the center of city and culture. Yeah, the city.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I'll be pleased to be there.
yeah, it will be totally worth it for you to fly like about 30 hours. Yeah.
Oh
from
my God.
Mexico to Indonesia. Okay, once again, thank you so much. Please applause
Thank you.
to our
Good night
first
and
speaker.
good evening.
Have a good night. Yeah, have a good night. Go to bed soon.
Yeah,
Thank you
bye-bye.
so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Oke, mohon maaf Pak Agus, selamat datang untuk Pak Agus Listiana RN dari Kepala Dinas Koperasi UKM Perindustrian dan Perdagangan. Ya, mudah-mudahan tidak terlalu molor ya Pak. Oke, monggo. Jadi Pak Agus adalah pembicara kita kedua. Monggo, silakan Pak. Kami persilakan di. Monggo. Oke, ada yang mau di share gitu atau apa Pak? Sepertinya saya bisa share, tapi ini nggak stabil ini saya. So Martin, hello Martin, our third speaker, are you there? Martin,
Yes, I'm here.
where are you?
Can you see me?
Yeah, not yet. Oh yeah, I can see you. Uh, sorry, like the schedule is a little bit, it's a little bit different with the schedule. And our second speaker is the head of what you call. Apa tadi, Mbak? Oh, so he's the head of cooperative, small and medium enterprise, yeah. But he will deliver his presentation in Bahasa Indonesia. So if you have any concern or questions, let us know. Okay? Yeah, thank you. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. Okay, thank you. Oh. Oke, baik. Sebelum memulai sesi kedua, kami terima kasih sekali Pak Agus sudah bersedia menjadi narasumber di acara ini. Jadi audiensnya adalah mahasiswa, kemudian ya tentu saja ada dosen-dosen dan kebanyakan memang dari jurusan Kriya. Ada kriawan, ada profesional artis atau seniman dan lain sebagainya, dan ada alumni juga tentu saja, ada pengusaha. Baik, untuk para hadirin, sedikit informasi atau CV dari Bapak Agus Sulistiana MM. Beliau adalah saat ini adalah menjabat sebagai Kepala Dinas Koperasi, Usaha Kecil dan Menengah, Perindustrian dan Perdagangan Kabupaten Bantul. Kemudian, oh maaf, bentar. Oke. Kemudian pernah menjabat juga sebagai Kepala Dinas Perpustakaan dan Kearsipan Kabupaten Bantul, pernah menjadi Camat Pandak Kabupaten Bantul, dan banyak sekali. Jadi kalau dibacakan semua akan habis waktunya. Monggo Pak Agus, saya panggil Pak Agus ya Pak. Silakan Bapak.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Yang pertama kali tentu kami memohonkan izin, Bapak Bupati itu sudah ngecim-cim mau hadir. Bahasa Indonesia apa ngecim-cim ya? Sudah mencari waktu, kepengen hadir dan sebagainya. Karena apa? Ini sangat penting sekali bagi Pemda Bantul dalam forum ini. Karena apa? 2017 Bantul itu sudah ditetapkan sebagai kabupaten kreatif dari Bikraf. Nah, kemudian 2023 Bantul kepingin sekali menjadi kabupaten kreatif jejaring dunia (UCCN). Nah, sehingga Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, pemerintah Kabupaten Bantul ini mempunyai keinginan yang sangat luar biasa, yaitu membangun ekosistem dari Bantul tetapi untuk nasional bahkan internasional. Dan ini akan di launching nanti di bulan Desember di Jakarta. Kenapa? Kalau dilihat dari visi pemerintah daerah Kabupaten Bantul, Bantul itu kepingin mewujudkan masyarakat Bantul yang harmonis, sejahtera, berkeadilan, berdasarkan Pancasila dan UUD 45 dalam bingkai NKRI yang berbhinneka tunggal ika. Tugas ini ternyata, tujuan ini ternyata cukup berat. Tantangan, hambatan, dan sebagainya. Salah satu hal permasalahan yang sekarang masih dihadapi adalah kemiskinan. Di Bantul, kemiskinan masih kira-kira 14% saat ini. Gini rasio juga kelihatannya di DIY cukup tinggi di Bantul. Mungkin urutan ketiga atau keempat begitu. Nah, sehingga kesejahteraan yang merata ini kemudian perlu ditumbuhkan di Kabupaten Bantul, atau ekonomi inklusif ini perlu ditumbuhkan di Kabupaten Bantul dengan berbagai upaya. Salah satunya adalah pengembangan potensi lokal. Silakan, Mbak. Ya. Pendayagunaan potensi lokal ini akan dilakukan di Kabupaten Bantul demi apa? Pertumbuhan ekonomi yang merata untuk memecahkan masalah Gini rasio dan kemiskinan. Lanjut. Salah satu hal yang kemudian dilakukan atau bisa kita lihat, apa toh sebenarnya potensi yang ada di Bantul? Tahun 2016, BPS itu sudah mengadakan sensus ekonomi dan ada data UKM 128.000 dari jumlah penduduk Kabupaten Bantul itu 1 juta saat ini. Kemudian dari potensi UKM ini, kami bisa mendata secara by name, by address, itu ada 86.000 lebih. Kami ada datanya, dan data ini kemudian kami breakdown dari sektor-sektornya. Lanjut, Mbak. Sektor yang paling menonjol itu adalah sektor Kriya. Dan industri olahannya, atau kemudian Kriya ada industri olahan itu menempati PDRB tertinggi di Kabupaten Bantul. Kemudian baru diikuti pertanian dan juga pariwisata. Nah, potensi lokal dari Kriya ini berbagai hal. Ada batik. Batik ini salah satu batik di Bantul adalah batik nitik yang ada di pojok kiri atas. Batik nitik ini sudah mendapatkan IG, indikasi geografis. Artinya bahwa di dunia ini batik nitik hanya ada di Jetis Bantul, satu-satunya. Ya. Tapi ini memang akan dikembangkan di DIY, tidak masalah. Artinya tapi asal-usulnya Bantul. Dan Bantul ini merupakan cikal bakal atau asal-usul Mataram tua. Jadi dulu ketika Bantul itu asalnya dari kota gede, itu Bantul. Kemudian pindah ke selatan di Kerto itu Bantul, baru yang sekarang ada di kota. Sehingga apa? Budaya, wisata, kemudian UKM ini sangat erat kaitannya. Banyak sekali, kemudian produk-produk lain ada keris, ada kerajinan kulit, dan sebagainya. Bisa dilihat, Mbak, berikutnya. Pada saat itu, Kasongan ini pernah menjadi atau mengalami kejayaan. Salah satu produk kerajinan dan ada salah satu dosen isi yang mempelopori, tidak lain adalah Pak Timbul Raharjo, Pak Dr. Timbul, yang saat ini juga showroom-nya masih sangat besar di sana. Meskipun bahan baku untuk kerajinan di Kasongan Gerabah ini semakin kurang. Karena apa? Tanah liat yang dibutuhkan untuk keramik di sana itu mendatangkan pertama dari Selarong tidak jauh, kemudian Selarong tidak ada, pindah ke Godean, Godean sekarang sudah tidak ada, kemudian sekarang banyak yang mengambil dari Kebumen. Padahal ketika kita mengambil dari Kebumen, biaya produksinya tinggi, bahkan di sana mungkin sudah rebutan dengan pengrajin genteng di Kebumen. Sehingga kemudian Pak Timbul berusaha untuk agar survive para pengrajin di sana, bahan bakunya banyak yang kemudian ganti. Ada kayu, ada kemudian Pak Timbul ini mengumpulkan pelek-pelek bekas. kemudian dicor, ya, kemudian dibuatlah patung. Nah, sehingga inilah yang menjadi kekuatan Bantul, upcycling atau recycling yang ada di Bantul ini sangat pesat sekali. Ekspor tertinggi di DIY itu berasal dari Bantul 60%, dan ini adalah dari Kriya, dari craft. Saya sangat salut sekali, sangat senang sekali ketika Bantul ini punya isi. Bantul ini punya SMK di Kasian, yang itu adalah bergerak di bidang seni dan kreasi, ya, seni dan kreasi. Sehingga Pemda Bantul ini sangat diuntungkan ketika ada perguruan tinggi. Maka yang kami tekankan di sini adalah nanti bagaimana kita bisa membangun ekosistem usaha ini dari hulu sampai dengan hilir. Nah, sebelum saya matur ke sana, ini ada produk unggulan dari Bantul, itu ada Kriya, itu ada 15 sentra dengan tenaga kerjanya 5.135. Fashion, yang tadi juga banyak tampil di sini, ini ada 9 sentra IKM, ada 1.823 tenaga kerja, dan kuliner ada 26 lokasi. Kemudian, klaster industri kreatif ini kemudian dikembangkan di Kabupaten Bantul karena memang sangat potensi. Kalau dari sisi sumber daya alamnya sih mungkin tidak begitu kuat, karena luas Bantul hanya 500 km persegi. Tetapi dari sisi SDM, karena ditopang oleh, ya kita dekat dengan UGM, kita punya Akademi Kulit di Bantul dan sebagainya, sehingga kemudian Pak Bupati mengembangkan klaster industri kreatif. Ada 75 sentra, tapi yang kreatif ada 44. Berapa pengrajin yang ada di 44 itu? 3.081 pengrajin. Kemudian jumlah keseluruhan pelaku IKM itu yang di 75 sentra itu ada 49. Kalau tadi 86 data kami yang by name, 49 berarti kan lebih dari separuh itu adalah industri kreatif. Kemudian kontribusi industri kreatif tadi saya sampaikan PDRB tertinggi adalah 14,84%. Lanjut, Mbak. Penyerapan tenaga kerja sampai dengan 2021 ada 259.083 tenaga kerja yang terserap di sektor Kriya. Nah, kami juga melakukan modernisasi pasar. Ketika kita sudah masuk di era 4.0, di mana seluruh sumber daya yang ada itu harus dimanfaatkan, kemudian ditambah dengan cyber atau internet, maka tidak lain pasar pun di Bantul kemudian harus melakukan modernisasi. Jadi modernisasi pasar di kami, membangun pasar-pasar itu biar kelihatan menarik, modern, tetapi sumber daya manusianya, pedagang pun harus kami latih untuk bisa mengikuti perkembangan zaman ini. Kami bekerja sama dengan Gojek. Apalagi ini hanya pedagang pasar, apalagi UKM-UKM kami. Hampir setiap hari kami melakukan pelatihan yang disebut dengan digitalisasi atau pemasaran online. Termasuk desain-desain yang ada ini kemudian kami diusahakan mendesain barang-barang produk ini harus secara digital. Agar apa? Masyarakat kita terbiasa untuk memanfaatkan teknologi informasi sesuai perkembangan zaman. Dan luar biasanya, sekarang di mana kebutuhan pasar ini sudah sangat luar biasa, ketika pertanian-pertanian di daerah yang luas pertaniannya, itu sekarang sudah menggunakan produk-produk Bantul, misalnya saja dalam rangka penyemprotan tanaman untuk hama dan sebagainya, itu sudah menggunakan drone. Produk drone itu tidak jauh dari sini. Ini ke utara, kemudian ke timur, sampai dengan mentok ke selatan kira-kira 200 meter kanan jalan. Jadi ada di selatan Pasar Ngoto, itu ada produk drone. Itu ada anak-anak Bantul. Lanjut, Mbak. Pasar kami ada 32 yang ini sangat membantu terhadap apa? Ekonomi masyarakat. Jadi ketika tadi produk Kriya ada juga yang dijual di pasar. Salah satu contoh misalnya, ketika pasar seni Gabusan ini juga kita buat untuk memasarkan produk-produk Kriya di sana. Jadi harapan kami di sana itu adalah tempat co-working space-nya, jadi tempat belajarnya. Nanti mahasiswa bisa belajar di sana bersama-sama dengan pengrajin yang ada di sana. Kemudian nanti bisa juga tempat untuk memasarkan produknya, produk-produk Kriya yang ada di Bantul. Lanjut, Mbak. Yang sesuai dengan judul kami, membangun ekosistem usaha, ini pemerintah berusaha dari hulu sampai dengan hilir itu ada di Kabupaten Bantul. Kalau toh misalnya kemudian Bantul tidak ada, karena banyak juga bahan baku dari kerajinan yang dilaksanakan oleh pengrajin di Bantul itu mengambil dari luar daerah. Salah satu pengrajin gedebok pisang, anyaman gedebok pisang, yang setiap bulan membutuhkan 25 ton gedebok kering, ya, itu berasal dari Bojonegoro. Nah, oleh karena itu, ketika ekosistem ini akan dibangun, ya tentu kami melibatkan Bojonegoro, mungkin nanti kemudian Subang dan sebagainya yang di sana banyak nanas dan sebagainya sebagai bahan untuk kerajinan ini. Nah, kemudian ketika kita membangun subsistem yang harus kita persiapkan adalah pertama bahan baku. Ketika bahan baku ini diusahakan ketika bisa masyarakat Bantul bisa, nanti entah itu kerjasama dengan koperasi atau bumkal. Kemudian bumkal itu mempekerjakan masyarakat petani untuk menanam, tadi kalau misalnya butuh pisang ya nanti menanam pisang. Kalau misalnya butuh kerajinan berkait dengan mendong, atau pandan, ya nanti diusahakan pandan atau mendong itu berasal dari Bantul. Bantul juga ada jamu. Jamu ini sekarang sudah ekspor. Karena apa? Para UKM jamu ini mengambil inovasi bahwa dia berpikir kalau orang luar negeri itu lebih-lebih perempuan, kaum perempuan, ketika mau kerja, mungkin tidak sempat untuk minum jamu, atau mungkin terlalu pagi dan sebagainya. Sehingga kemudian jamu itu dibuat suatu selai kunyit asam misalnya, selai apalagi. Jadi dibuat selai. Sehingga apa? Ketika orang luar negeri makan, ya, sarapan roti, sekaligus dia bisa minum jamu. Ini inovasi yang luar biasa dilakukan oleh masyarakat kami. Nah, kami dorong pada Pak Lurahnya untuk bagaimana bisa menyiapkan empon-empon di sana. Nah, kemudian kolaborasi usaha, ini pentahelik atau bahkan ini lebih ya, Pemda sangat beruntung tadi saya katakan punya isi, sangat beruntung ada UGM, sangat beruntung di sini itu ada UAD, ada Akademi Teknik Kulit. Karena apa? Kami bisa mengambil ahli-ahli termasuk di isi ini bagaimana nanti kita bisa menyiapkan kolaborasi, menyiapkan desain-desain yang sangat menarik atau desain-desain yang selalu berubah. Karena tentu konsumen ketika disodori salah satu produk itu saja, ya tentu nanti kemudian akan menolak, akan bosan dan sebagainya. Nah, dengan adanya perguruan tinggi yang kita bisa bekerja sama, harapan kita perguruan tinggi nanti bisa memberikan ilmu-ilmunya kepada UKM-UKM yang ada di Bantul. Kemudian pemerintah desa, sekali lagi, pemerintah desa ini yang sebagian besar menguasai tanah. Karena kalau Pemda tidak punya aset tanah, kalau desa ada tanah kas desa, bahkan tanah SG, kasultanan, itu juga biasanya dimanfaatkan oleh pemerintah desa. Sehingga ketika pemerintah daerah mau membangun atau ada investasi, hanya kita sodorkan ke tanah-tanah desa atau tanah-tanah kasultanan. Nah, sehingga peran Pemdes sangat penting sekali. Kemudian perguruan tinggi di sana, kemudian juga perbankan. Salah satu masalah bagi UKM itu adalah modal. Oleh karena itu keberadaan perbankan ini sangat membantu ketika dengan adanya KUR, kredit usaha rakyat. Yang terakhir adalah para UKM sendiri. Kemudian di dalam IKM itu tentu diharapkan ada penyiapan bahan baku, ada yang membuat, kemudian ada yang mendesain, ada yang membuat kemasan, ada yang reseller, kemudian ada juga yang daur ulang. ketika daur ulang, ya tadi saya aturkan, Bantul itu hampir semuanya kecuali sampah-sampah organik yang sekarang masih diadakan penelitian-penelitian, tetapi sampah-sampah yang sudah dipilah ini oleh masyarakat sudah dimanfaatkan dengan sebaik-baiknya. Sehingga inilah yang kemudian akan bisa menyelesaikan salah satu masalah global nanti ketika sampah itu lebih-lebih plastik itu akan banyak sekali. Karena menurut penelitian, satu orang itu akan mengeluarkan sampah 6 on satu hari. Kalau dalam keluarga itu 4, berarti 6 on kali 4. Sehingga berapa sampah yang ada di Bantul? Itulah yang kemudian kita berusaha untuk diolah. Salah satu Pak Popo itu mungkin alumni sini bukan ya? Kayaknya iya. Ada di Pajangan. Dia mengolah plastik-plastik ini kemudian menjadi paralon. Nah, kemudian ada juga Mas Eri, ini ada di Gilang Harjo, motor-motor bekas itu kemudian dia beli dengan harga yang sangat murah, kemudian dibuat transformer. Kemarin Pak Rahmat Gobel itu membeli 40 unit. Satu unitnya harganya 60 juta. Padahal tadi bahan bakunya mungkin tidak lebih dari 10 juta lah. Tetapi dengan keahliannya dia bisa menghasilkan uang, satu unit transformer seharga 60 juta. Lanjut. Ini mungkin yang terakhir Bapak Ibu sekalian yang tadi saya sampaikan, ketika BUMDes atau koperasi, karena apa? Koperasi itu rata-rata di Kabupaten Bantul ini belum berfungsi secara baik. Jadi lembaganya koperasi tetapi rata-rata hanya simpan pinjam. Usahanya simpan pinjam. Kalau nanti koperasi ini bisa mengambil peluang, ya misalnya saja, kemudian tidak hanya modalnya, tetapi bisa mempekerjakan orang-orang yang ada di anggotanya koperasi untuk menanam pisang atau juga untuk membuat anyaman ini, sehingga apa ekosistem tadi akan bisa terbentuk. Terakhir, kami juga membangun ekosistem usaha itu melalui pengembangan pariwisata berbasis komunitas. Kalau yang membangun pariwisata itu pemerintah, biasanya malah nggak jadi. Tetapi ketika masyarakat sendiri yang ada, kemudian pemerintah tinggal nambah fasilitas-fasilitas. Contoh, Kabupaten Bantul ini membangun PSG itu sudah lama sekali, tapi belum jadi. Tapi ketika Becici yang pernah dikunjungi oleh Obama, itu yang membuat masyarakat. Hanya hutan pinus, kemudian di hias-hias itu, kemudian bisa untuk selfie, sekarang berkembang. Bahkan mulai dari pinus asri sampai dengan utara sana, sekarang sudah ada berapa objek wisata yang ada di Delingo. Dan inilah yang akan mengangkat ekonomi masyarakat. Kebetulan di Delingo ini ada pengrajin, misalnya bambu. Ya. Bambu kemudian dibatik, dibuatlah mungkin gantungan kunci atau apa-apa. Itulah yang nanti kemudian bisa dikerjasamakan. Ketika orang masuk sekarang di Becici, itu mungkin bayar 5.000 tanpa dapat apa-apa. Nanti mungkin tambahlah misalnya menjadi 10.000, tapi dapat produk kerajinan dari sana. Sehingga masyarakat akan semuanya terangkat. Itu Bapak dan Ibu sekalian yang dapat kami sampaikan pada kesempatan ini. Terakhir kali Bantul mengharapkan dukungan dari berbagai pihak untuk nanti ketika launching menjadi kabupaten kreatif jejaring dunia dan bahkan kami nanti akan launching menjadi kabupaten ekosistem nasional. Mohon nanti dari ISI bisa mensupport, termasuk peserta diskusi pada kesempatan siang ini. Kita akhiri, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Insya Allah siap Pak, Insya Allah siap menjadi mitra. Tapi ngomong-ngomong nggak bawa jelinya ya Pak? Selainnya enggak ya? Kan ini apa sampel gitu produk. Lumayan. Oh betul loh Pak. Ya, nanti saya kasih nomor saya ya. Ya. Alhamdulillah. Oke, terima kasih sekali Pak Agus. Singkat, padat, jelas dan sangat ini ya tepat sasaran. Dan kami itu punya tokoh-tokoh ini loh Pak yang apa ya penggiat komunitas di Bantul. Jadi salah satunya ada kayak Pak Arif. Pak Arif itu apa Pak? Mungkin bisa diceritakan Pak Arif kegiatannya di Desa Gumi Pak. Ya Bapak kenal kan pasti. Nah gitu. Ya, jadi banyak, itu cuma salah satu dan dosen-dosen kami sering sekali gitu Pak memberikan terutama dalam hal peningkatan desain kayak motif batik kayak gitu. Jadi ya amanah lah Pak, insya Allah terpercaya. Jadi pokoknya Kriya keren. Oke, oke. Sepertinya kita ini saja ya Mbak MC sesuai dengan planning ya, rundown-nya, yaitu kita langsung ke speaker yang ketiga gitu ya. So Martin, hi Martin, are you there?
Hello, I am here. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So we're gonna stick on the rundown. So you're gonna be our last speaker, the third speaker.
Okay.
So are you ready?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Yes. Okay. So after this, yeah, I'm gonna tell a little bit about you so that the audience have a little bit of like a drawing about yourself.
Okay.
So Martin Bonney, currently he's the lecturer in charge at LaSalle College of the Arts in Singapore in the Department of Fashion, teaching and coordinating the multidisciplinary textiles on BA Horn's Fashion Design and Textile. This includes print, embroidery, knit, weave, multimedia discipline for fashion, fabrics, as well as all course administration roles. Oh wow, administration role. That's not that fun. So the course and its practice are future-facing with innovative methods, balancing traditional hand and current digital textile knowledge within the cultural context of Southeast Asia. Currently exploring regional design within Singapore and cultural exchange. His research focuses on print, embroidery, mixed media process surrounding heritage and modes of communication and sustainability. Okay, Martin, time is yours now. So you're gonna share your presentation by yourself, right?
No worries. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Okay.
Awesome. No worries. I'll get started. So thank you very much for having me today, and thanks for letting me present some of the work that I've been up to in Singapore. Sorry I can't be with you. It's very close, but it's that just wrong timing for me managing the program here at LaSalle. But I have many Indonesian students, so it's been a great interest of working with craft from this region. So thank you for introducing and for the introductions. Today, I wanted to talk about really about locality within craft and the importance of place. We've had amazing Mexican craft and the regions of Mexican craft and culture shared and presented today. And I think that in itself opens up worlds of sort of similarities when it comes to backstrap looms that we see within all across sort of this region, especially within Indonesia. So disrupting place-based fashion futures is really where I've come into this program at LaSalle, but also in thinking about, or rethinking, should I say, craft and place. So for me, it all starts with a simple question of what is fashion? And I would sort of challenge both students and academics to think about what is fashion for them. The fashion system is still very much dictated today by Western hierarchies, traditional ways of doing fashion. This is sort of really hard to escape from, especially when we sort of really rotate around the modern world in which we live. We're in a hyper-connected world, meaning that we're all connecting and looking at fashion through our mobile phones, through our computers, and we're following the sort of Paris Fashion Week, the London Fashion Week, the New York Fashion Week, and especially those 4 seasons, which don't necessarily make sense to where we are based in Singapore or Yogyakarta or wherever that might be. So really the question of what is fashion is actually quite a complicated question to ask, especially if we sort of then start to unpick the hierarchies and traditions of what make fashion so incredible. The real research really came about is when we started to question the ideas of a single world society and unpicking that, challenging the notions of where we have arrived to today, challenging social media perspectives, and opening that up to a lot more different things. So then it's shifting away from this. This is what my students in LaSalle think fashion is. Fashion is everything that happens overseas. Everything in the West is fashion. And this is something that I like to sort of move away from, shift away from, and rethink. So my research, but also what I'm presenting with you today, explores necessary introduction to disruptive pedagogical methods, so ways in which that I've changed around or implemented the system of teaching at LaSalle. And it ignites change in a current system thinking from our own perspective. What I'm going to share with you today are 5 years worth of research and case studies where my students were rethinking and challenging the notion of craft and fashion from the region. And this is a necessary shift of our being, not only as designer, creator, curator, maker, whatever you want to call yourselves, fashion marketers. I'm not really sure how diverse that audience is, but we need to make that change in our own thinking, in our own being. We need to bring ourselves back to something more local and regional. To do that as an educator, the first thing that we've really implemented was place-based learning. Place-based learning is a really simple idea. It's not necessarily something groundbreaking, but what you do within this space is really important. So this was just a snippet that I took from one of the module documents. And it's really looking at the social and cultural spheres around our own ecosystem, questioning how we've anchored that from an Asianic perspective, our geographical sort of habitual, the cultural, the behaviors, the rituals, the beliefs, and how they all unfold within what is fashion. So it's much larger than sort of necessarily spoken about. When we take that context, I'm going to share with you guys a few different things. And I love that I'm going to get to share this with you because I feel it's something that both students can do and introduce as collaborations within their own projects, but also the faculty there perhaps might borrow some of these methods so that they will sort of almost engage in fashion from around the world and bringing about more of a localized voice. So I've got 3 different briefs. One was a cross-pollinization, and this is where we worked with designers and the museum at FIT in New York. We have the indigenous roots. This is where we've taken our students to Bali, Indonesia, which you guys are probably familiar with, but it's quite nice to get to exchange as well. And also a digital interaction. So this was case studies that we continued, but through the COVID period. So I'm going to jump straight into just some key takeaways. So cross-pollinization is really an interesting strategy where we are utilizing what we would consider as perhaps something very similar to ourselves, but in another sort of ecosystem. And we chose New York. So we worked with the museum at FIT. The museum at FIT, we did 2 projects with them. We did some really big projects. One was minimalism and maximalism, one was force of nature. Each of those happened on different years. So there's a 2-year case study that we had. Teaching strategy was an exchange of knowledge. So just as much as we have a bee going from one plant to the next plant, carrying across some fantastic pollen to help the flowers grow, cross-pollinization happens in a very similar way. Where knowledge is exchanged. So first we used the museum to dictate to us perhaps what was the Western perspective of fashion. So we utilizing the perspective and working with the curatorial team at the museum at FIT, they shared with us their exhibition, they shared with us new content, they shared with us behind the scenes content, and they also gave a lecture to start off the semester. Following that, our students were then able to move away from Western fashion. And that meant that we then could sort of understand that Western fashion is here. This is the existence of perhaps what was nature in fashion, what was minimal or maximal in fashion from the West. So what does it mean for us in Singapore or from the region? How do we then want to respond from that So having that precursor, understanding that there is this other so that we could then focus on what's relevant for us. It really allowed us to sort of open up and question new ground. In minimalism and maximalism, our students were able to we were able to send work and showcase in New York as well, which is a great thing for our students. And you know, the sort of significance of sharing regional perspectives of craft as well. And inside that, you can see that we've exhibited, and I just sort of threw together some images of student work. So you've got research pages, and then you've got the exhibition pages. And you can see the use of color or the use of materials. What we found was that students in New York were using much heavier materials, much more thicker materials because of their climates and their different response to weather. As were our students here, where it's much more hotter, we're having much lighter fabrics, and there was a more sensitive approach. But there was a really interesting balance in how we responded with nature as well. So some really beautiful images from the exhibitions over the years, utilizing student photography work, bringing in student garments, but also creating these sort of publications and zines, really a bombardment of different images across our campus at the end of year show. So it really allowed for a fruitful exchange of knowledge, but also bringing about perspective of what is fashion from our own region. I'll highlight this one garment that's just a tailored shirt. And it was from one of our students that chose to do a very different approach. Like many big cities in Indonesia, you've got Singapore that would be similar, where there's big sky rises, big massive towers of concrete. And what I quite liked was this was a shirt that was made of cotton, but then she had dipped it in concrete. So it was a really interesting approach to textile design. And every time you wore it, it would sort of crumble and dust, and it would be, you know, it was a bit of a disaster. But the point was the fact that we're so driven in fast fashion, we're so driven in creating things and the newness of what is fashion, but also buildings are habitat and place, that we're actually destroying our planet. So there's quite conceptual experimentation, quite interesting approach to rethinking what is fashion design, the tailoring, the crafting of that fashion design. We do take a really interesting approach to that as well. And all of this work, as I said, was then showcased again in New York as well. So it's quite beautiful alongside their students as well. A really different approach. And this is something that I quite liked. This was an image from the place that I was staying in Bali in Ubud. But for about 5 years, we were taking our students before COVID. We were taking our students to Indonesia. And it's something that, even talking to you guys, it's something that we should maybe think about partnership and working together. But it was really getting students back to their roots. So understanding more of a locality, getting them away from city living, very much just as we've heard within sort of Mexico City, you know, students don't seem to explore their perimeters. They don't explore the smaller islands or the larger islands around us. You know, Singapore is just this little dot in an ocean. But getting the students back to these really beautiful practices. And this came about because I was teaching students textiles, and I was teaching them batik, batik stamp work, and teaching batik to students in that were sort of, you know, from Indonesia or Malaysia. And I always questioned sort of my own approach as a British designer, a foreigner. I then challenged myself and was like, this is a bit bizarre. So I wanted to go and work with craft communities throughout the region to enrich students, people that have been working with craft for decades, so they could have a slightly different approach. My own approach, you know, however gifted it may be, is very different to the local approach. So I think it's really important to have both sides of those voices coming together for a contemporary craft language. This is Jenny Balfour, and we flew her out for a talk. She wrote the book on indigo dye, and she's a professor from the UK. And it was really interesting to know the global research and practices around indigo and dye practices. So this was a project called Indigo 2.0, and it was where we were rethinking the notion and the color blue. So it was where students got to use indigo and the sort of exploring indigo. And one thing that I found really beautiful was when my students were researching into the myths and beliefs from the region. And again, a lot of these practices were done by, by women, or and they're dictated and controlled around sort of, I don't know, menstrual cycles or pregnancy, or there was loads of interactions and contradictions of when women can and cannot do, or the issues around the notion of blue. I very much loved the research that came out from this. But again, getting the students back to nature is really important, just as we heard earlier from our speaker. And from that, we got to do all sorts of really creative things. So we got to pick indigo leaves and make indigo. You can see, all our hands very blue, but very beautiful. We also got to speak to collectors of fabric and material. So the central image is this fantastic ikat fabrics, and they were collected in the 70s. So an explorer from the 70s was wandering through on a little boat to many remote Indonesian islands, collecting the most beautiful fabrics. And the stories and the storytelling surrounding the fabrics was an amazing evening and an experience. But also working with Pakagusti and the different dye techniques, the introductions to synthetic dye versus natural dye, the processes and the ramifications that has in one's industry. And just, staying in this sort of beautiful space is something that you can benefit from learning from the natural environment. Learning doesn't just have to happen in a classroom. It was really nice to take our students out for a period of a week. Inside that space, I then mix it up. So then I take it back to the studio where I work with students. So going from something that is incredibly crafted, incredibly rich, and then take them back to my own studio. And then I show them what is a batik stamp. And I get them to rethink it. And I do all the things that you're not supposed to do. So in not doing, so we learned the practices, we learned the traditions, we learned the respect of, and then being the sort of disruptor of the classroom myself, I then brought them back into the studio and I disrupted the practice. So in disrupting this, I just let them have fun. I liberated them with the notion of what a batik stamp is and just have fun with it. Brushing dye on, pouring dye on, dripping dye on, or smudging and smearing, all of those fantastic doing words, and rethinking the notion of craft, twisting the fabric, shifting the fabric, layering the stamps and sort of destroying the fabric in some cases. But it's all in the idea of creating something new. The batik stamp is something that we have so much of, and we've got a fantastic collection at LaSalle. And to keep them alive, I want the younger generation to use them. So for me, craft needs to move forward. I'm very much this textile designer that likes to sort of move with time. If we constantly keep craft in a fixed period, it is always going to remain still. It's always going to remain something for a museum or for an older generation. Well, what happens when the older generation die out? What happens when the clothes in the museum just collect dust? For me, textiles and craft need to be something that we bring into our daily lives and bring into the idea of what is fashion today. And that's really what this was really about, was just getting them to think about it in slightly different ways. We did create some fantastic processes, smearing and smudging and splashing and layering and creating some different things. And it really opens up the idea of what craft can be if we sort of rethink the rules surrounding them. The notion of a rule that is created by people, so why can't people change the rules? And I kind of like the idea of that. So in the process of crafting, the students constantly balance the ideas of past, future, and we then start to recommunicate new possibilities. Where can we take it? Where is the option for us to move forward with this idea of what craft can do? And this was really a fantastic project that came out of questioning indigo, the notion of dye, but also through craft as well, and our visits to Indonesia. So physical location is really key here, because we're working with New York in the first instance. So we were learning what's happening elsewhere. We then took our students elsewhere. We took our students from Singapore to Indonesia. So we moved our students. So that physical location was a disruptor inside their learning. And that learning then became greater enriched through our own lived experiences. So through our own sort of experiential learning, through learning something very different, we got to engage in newness. Something that I was, very shocked with was one evening in Indonesia when we were there for a period of, a week. And I was sleeping, and then my students had their own little spaces and their different apartments and own these little in Ubud. And I heard all this noise, and I was thinking to myself, this is on the first year, when at 2 o'clock in the morning, all my students were screaming and making lots of commotion. And I was thinking to myself, this is crazy. Like, oh my God, why did I do this to myself? It's a student trip. And the commotion was that they've never seen the night sky before. So there was a power cut in Ubud, and there was no power. And the sky had lit up with this most amazing array of sort of stars and different skies light, something that you don't get to see if you live in a city. So back to nature and disrupting lives happens, and it was really important for us. Other great aspects of this was actually working with craft community. Students realized actually the human labor that's invested in what makes craft and what is fashion. So when you're just ordering things in, or you're just creating things from chemical dyes from a bottle, you don't actually understand the human labor involved. So it was a really great process to get students to understand with a deep richness. Yeah. And then from that, back in the studio, we then get to create embroideries, dyes, prints. We get to create fashion photography, film, new media. And this is where the digital interactions and the communication of fashion start to shift. This was around COVID time. So this was a project that we had titled Phantasmagoria, which is a balance of both phantom and this notion of gore. And it's really this horror movie of conversations, So it's that idea that you can't look away from. It looks really, but it's also absorbing you in. And then we were able to do that through different types of embroidered techniques, dye techniques, and different crafted elements, to different variations of success. Yeah. But inside this space, we're able to sort of open up and challenge the notion of what is craft, but also what is fashion from our region. What is the aspect of fashion, but also how can we start to be the content creators, the owners of our craft and culture? So how are we then equipping the new designers, the future designers within this space, and giving them the skills, but also the confidence to reshape the future in a way that they want to live. And I think this is something, as an educator within Singapore, empowering your students is really an incredible gift. This digital exchange happens across both images, but also biodegradable materials, perhaps, and challenging the new roles of luxury and engaging that. So we've got some nice images. These sort of, this is a still, but this was actually a video of the garments just moving in the wind. We have these biodegradable sort of fabrics and materials that were suspended in this sort of showcase. But it was really about opening up new approaches to what is fashion and what fashion can become. Yeah, as you can see, and I borrow the words here, but it's sort of, we make visible what is emerging by both slowing down the present and also speeding up the present's future. And I kind of like the idea of this. I kind of like that within this space of teaching contemporary fashion design, we have to look back. We have to understand our own locality and place. We have digital fashion from perhaps 3D Clo using new technology, new crafted media. So working in hyper reality and designing in software, but also making sure that patterns and designs are not lost, that our craft culture is still relevant within inside of the space. So a very simple diagram, really. The diagram is questioning and challenging place for new solutions, local solutions. And this is a transaction of a disruptive place creation, where craft and objects are used, either the tools, how we use those tools, but also how we think about our own place as a tool as well. Disrupting that with inside pedagogical methods, learning methods, teaching methods, but also experiential. So how the students are gaining from those experiences, disrupting their place, challenging that sort of transaction. So what is that transaction and how can we interrupt that sort of classroom setting, studio setting environment, that learning environment, so that we can arrive at more local solutions, reiterating what I started off by saying, which is challenging our fashion makers, communicators, educators, and researchers to find new ways to unlock fashion systems from our own region. This opening up perhaps past 20th century ways of being and doing fashion. We then can start to greater explore new ecosystems, social technological systems, challenge our own actions within this space, but also the well-being and conversations surrounding perhaps bigger issues that we have today, mental health. If we feel more locally connected, we actually can start to recognize and feel more grounded to our practice of fashion and craft. There's a greater purpose perhaps towards that. And inside that space, guys, is really the end of my presentation. So I'm going to cut it just here. So thank you very much. On the screen is my email address, and you can sort of find me on Instagram if you wanted to. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Terima kasih, Martin. So how many times you visited Indonesia?
Many, many times. I've been in Singapore for, I'll stop this sharing. I've been in Singapore for 12 years.
Oh, okay.
So I've been to Indonesia many times. And I've been sort of across the region quite a bit. And tomorrow we have at LaSalle, we have an organization from Indonesia, which is called Meet the Makers.
Sorry, what's that?
Meet the Makers.
Okay.
So they're a craft organization, which is no reason why I can't come out to see you guys.
Okay.
So they're going to be, so we have from West, we have 3 indigenous craft weavers coming to campus to sort of have a conversation with my students. So we love to work with Indonesia more. So it's I think there is so much richness and beauty with the region as a whole, especially surrounding craft.
Well, it seems that you're really impressed with our Indonesian crafts, right? You are really in love with us.
I'm really in love. Wow. Yeah, why not? We'll say yes to this.
Well, I don't know, because you are British, like you're from UK. So, well, the thing that I know about the British craft is, of course, from what it represents and show in the museums or galleries such as Victoria and Albert, that kind of things here, and also anything related with the royal kingdom or European, well, such a thing. So yeah.
What I found, so when I was teaching batik with heritage stamps in that we have at LaSalle in Singapore, I was teaching batik, and they are Indonesian batik stamps, 100 years old, still being used. Some of them are perhaps even older. And I'm teaching the students, and I felt a strong connection towards them. The symbols, the shapes, and something that I found, and I got into a bit of a debate with students, because I was like, this is very British. And they said, no, this is Indonesian. And I was like, well, no, it's British. And it was actually this overlaps. So for me, textiles, craft is a very commercial product. So the people that were making this fabric would have been batik from this type of fabric, would have been selling that fabric to Europeans. So it was actually a traded commodity of culture and an exchange of culture. When I start looking into, especially sort of Peranakan culture or different stamps that we have, there's Western symbols like cold fruits or, you know, like strawberries and different things that are not necessarily native. So I kind of love that the designers, but also the designers of those stamps had a knowledge of what was European, and they were selling things in the trade. So there's sort of fantastic interactions and global interactions around it. So for me, craft generally is a very diverse but open, and I think it's always open for newness and moving forward. Yeah.
It's totally, it's open. Like, I think the key word is open. Yeah, because otherwise we're gonna just stuck on the, like, you know, otherwise we just gonna stuck and nothing happen. And yeah, it's died. We can die. It's done. No. Yeah. Okay, I think we already have a question and answer or communication already. But of course, I bet our audience here are really curious about what you're talking about, and there's a question for you. Yeah, is that, yeah? Please do, Pak Gafri. So you teach batik? Oh wow!
I teach many different crafts.
Thank you, Bu Alvi. Good afternoon, Martin.
Afternoon.
Yeah, it was very interesting for us. What is your presentation today, and also it's very good for us to know how you teach your student. Okay, so it's possible. Maybe I will ask not based on this your presentation, but another thing. Do you think it's possible for us to make collaboration? Because right now, my position here, Deputy Dean for Academic. So maybe we hope if we perhaps next time, if possible for us to make like collaboration, and maybe we can also make MOU with your campus, and we can doing together, research together with your student. Maybe sometime your student came here, 10 or 7 students, and also one day my student go to your campus. So we make like best project, something like that. I think it's good for you, visit us, because we have a lot expert, a teacher on batik. You never came here, right? In Jogja, never.
No. I've been to many parts, but I've not been there, or not that I'm aware of. I might have visited. So often I get sent to a lot of different places with a big team, and I kind of follow along. So I'm not necessarily always sure of everything. But you can Alvi can pass you my contact information.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
For sure, just drop me an email. So I think it's really important to say that as just an academic, my research, but also my teaching, the school within fashion, the fashion school, but also the arts and everything that we have at LaSalle is a big faculty, lots and lots of people. But they're always looking to do and work with people from the region. Myself, I'm going to be going back to the UK. I'm going to be doing my PhD. But interestingly, my PhD is going to be based looking at and investigating a little bit more Indonesian culture. For sure, I'll be in the region. So I think it'll be really important to keep keep relationships and conversations going.
Yeah, if you're interested with the batik area, I think it's better you come to Jogja, and you can also join with my lecture here, my student, my friend here, to do like research together. Maybe if you need data from here, it's good to, I think, right?
Amazing, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Acha, questions? Oh yeah. Oh, okay, Martin. Since we also have another speaker in Indonesia, I think one of the audience will ask about with another our speaker. So yeah, kindly wait. Ya, monggo, Bu Dita.
Ya, terima kasih Pak. Siapa tadi Pak?
Pak Agus.
Pak Agus ya.
Ya.
Terima kasih Pak. Ada beberapa hal yang mau saya tanyakan yang terkait dengan industri ya, dari Dinas Perindustrian di Bantul ya Pak ya. Sementara saya bercerita dulu sebentar Pak. Di isi ini terutama kita punya program yang mahasiswanya juga memproduksi, punya usaha. Mahasiswa-mahasiswa kita pribadi atau kelompok punya usaha Pak. Ada yang sudah berhasil dan tidak, ketika Bapak ceritakan. Nah, mereka sudah jalan sendiri-sendiri. Nah, yang saya lihat selama ini itu yang selalu digiring di perusahaan di perindustrian itulah usaha-usaha yang sudah menjadi gitu loh Pak, kalau istilah saya beri istilah. Nah, berilah mahasiswa kami, kebetulan ada beberapa mahasiswa, ini Anton ini juga jalur supaya mereka dapat masuk ke lingkaran yang bisa juga punya usaha. Kalau melihat perjalanan Pak Timbul dari nol kan dulu juga. Nah, kami ingin Bapak memberi sedikit tip dan trik agar mahasiswa kita bisa ke hal-hal yang lebih besar gitu loh Pak. Kadang-kadang mereka jalan dan tiba-tiba setelah selesai mereka tidak ada perbantuan atau apalah yang istilahnya bisa diboyong sampai ke jalur yang lebih besar dalam punya dunia usaha. Nah, kalau kita lihat dari hasil-hasil karya mahasiswa Pak, dari usaha mereka, insya Allah dari yang mereka, padahal mereka masih muda ya Pak, tapi sudah bisa pesanan mereka sudah keluar kemana-mana. Nah, yang ingin mereka sudah punya izin usaha, ada yang punya izin usaha Pak, mahasiswa sendiri yang selalu ada syaratnya kan seperti itu ya Pak ya. Nah, yang ingin ajaklah mereka, namanya ada pameran apa gitu, itu bisa berhubung dengan kami di kampus isi. Gimana alurnya saya nggak tahu. Ada program PMW namanya, ada program yang mereka memang tercatat sebagai mahasiswa yang sedang punya usaha. Itu ada skopnya nggak di perindustrian yang untuk bidang itu, bukan UKM UMKM di luar saja Pak, tapi lirik juga perguruan tinggi seperti kami, khusus Kriya sangat banyak Pak mahasiswa yang punya usaha. Terpikir nggak itu Pak masalah seperti itu, atau sudah punya, atau saya yang nggak begitu tahu. Terima kasih Pak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Begini Ibu Asmo, Bu Dwita, orang Padang ya. Jadi begini, Bantul khususnya dari dinas kami itu ada beberapa program kegiatan untuk yang pertama mungkin bagi wirausaha baru atau masyarakat yang belum usaha itu kita latih menjadi wirausaha. Tentu kemudian ketika dia sudah punya usaha, nanti akan mencari NIB atau nomor induk berusaha, nomor izin berusaha. Nah, kemudian setelah itu kami punya aplikasi Sidakui, sistem pendataan, K-nya itu koperasi, atau sistem informasi pendataan K, KUI itu K koperasi, punya UKM, I-nya industri. Nah, bagi yang tadi sudah punya usaha, kami harapkan untuk masuk di Sidakui dulu. Memang hari ini itu kena hacker, nggak tahu aku, baru kira-kira 2 tahun kok ini sudah dihacker orang. Ya, tapi ini sudah diupayakan oleh Kominfo, itu nanti dibenahi bersama yang membuat aplikasi. Dan ketika nanti sudah masuk di Sidakui, kami akan memetakan. Jadi kita petakan, misalnya kami ada pelatihan bisnis online misalnya, ya tentu kita ambil peta dari orang-orang usaha, ya itu yang usahanya yang bisa dibisniskan online. Contoh kami data itu masuk dari mikro, bahkan misalnya cilok. Akan cilok kan nggak mungkin akan kita bisniskan online. Nah, jadi kita ambil yang usaha-usaha yang memungkinkan untuk itu, atau pelatihan apapun. Nah, kemudian saya memang sangat sepakat ketika nanti bisa selalu berkolaborasi, syukur bagi, ya syukur bagi itu apa bahasa Indonesia? Seyogianya, ya kita beda Pak. Syukur bagi itu, ya, bahasa Jawa, syukur lah begitu. Syukur kalau itu non sewu. Yang wirausaha di sini ini justru bisa berkolaborasi dengan yang sudah ada di Bantul. Nah, contoh ya, adik saya ipar itu ya binaannya Pak Arep, lulusan sini. Nah, sekarang sudah non sewu rimbi-rimbi itu atau mulai itu untuk ekspor juga. Nah, jadi sebetulnya lulusan isi itu sangat bisa memungkinkan untuk maju. Nah, ini jadi benar sekali ketika kita bisa isi ini berkolaborasi dengan Kabupaten Bantul. Saya belum tahu apakah MOU, kalau belum ya kebangetan nih sebetulnya. MOU antara isi dengan Pemda Bantul. Kalau sudah nanti tinggal PKS-nya saja. Nanti misalnya dari jurusan Kriya, PKS dengan kami dinas sehingga nanti akan bisa semakin erat. Itu Bu mungkin. Nanti kita cari dulu MOU-nya sudah ada belum. Mudah-mudahan sudah ada. Kalau sudah ada tinggal PKS-nya aja, nanti per jurusan begitu. Misalnya saja jurusan yang kaitan dengan budaya, ya nanti PKS-nya dengan Dinas Kebudayaan, seni pertunjukan dan sebagainya. Kalau yang dengan kami, Kriya atau apa begitu, nanti dengan kami bisa. Kata nih Bu.
Ya, selamat siang. Di sini kalau untuk dari saya, kan tadi sempat menyinggung tentang ada krisis sumber daya bahan, khususnya yang ekstraksi, misal di Kasongan begitu. Nah, kemudian saya penasaran dengan peran pemerintah kemudian mau ngambil posisi di mana atau menawarkan strategi apa untuk industri-industri yang menggunakan bahan yang berasal dari ekstraksi. Jadi terkait keberlanjutan dari usaha itu sendiri, karena kalau misalnya melulu setiap bahannya habis kita ganti bahan kan ya agak repot juga gitu. Jadi untuk dari pemerintah strategi yang ditawarkan seperti apa, kemudian peran yang diambil oleh pemerintah untuk mengatasi situasi-situasi tersebut bagaimana? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Mbak. Jadi Bantul ini lebih mendorong kepada craft yang recycling atau upcycling. Karena apa? Ketika bahan bakunya berasal dari alam, ya kan habis lama-kelamaan. Salah satu ini contoh mungkin kalau panjenengan sudah pernah ke Banguntapan sisi timur atau Piungan sisi barat, itu berbatasan. Itu di sana itu yang namanya tanah sawah itu sekarang sudah dalamnya itu 2 pohon kelapa. Karena apa? Hanya diambil untuk kepentingan membuat batu bata. Nah, demikian pula ya ketika gerabah itu berasal dari tanah, lama-kelamaan tentu akan habis, akan kesulitan. Nah, sehingga yang didorong ini kalau bisa upcycling, recycling, barang-barang bekas ini yang di Bantul kemudian didorong. Makanya Bantul mau membuat brand tadi yang jejaring UCCN itu adalah Bantul Kota Kreatif Folk and Art. Folk Art ya, itu. Jadi Kriya ke sana. Jadi bukan kok ya termasuk sebenarnya Kasongan termasuk Kriya, tetapi yang didorong adalah barang-barang bekas. Terima kasih.
Recycle, jadi kami tadi kan ada lomba upcycle. Terus di fashion show kan juga. Jadi mudah-mudahan kapan kalau kita ada fashion show lagi Bapak bisa hadir ya Pak. Bagus-bagus sekali Pak. Luar biasa kreatif. Pokoknya apa yang dibuat sama mahasiswa Kriya tuh pasti bagus dan kreatif.
Launching ini di Jakarta ini, karena Mas Agung ini menjadi ketua KEK. Mas Agung itu sini dari ISI, Agung Wicaksono. Nah, nanti tolong mahasiswa ISI bisa menyemarakkan yang pameran-pamerannya di sana di Jakarta. Saya malah sangat berharap nanti komunikasi dengan Pak Agung Wicaksono saja, mudah-mudahan bisa.
Oke. Terima kasih. Nanti kalau sama Pak Agus, anytime bisa ya Pak, anak-anak tanya-tanya kami, tanya-tanya gitu, diskusi, kan dekat, ya. Nggak perlu tiket pesawat. Oke, iya terima kasih. Martin, still there ya? We still have a question, but well, actually, what we are talking about is, you know that our campus, ISI Yogyakarta, is located in what we call like a district, Bantul, yeah. And the second speaker, the gentleman next to me, is talking about that he say hi, Pak. Say hello sama Bapak. Okay. So he said that Bantul is sekarang sudah resmi ya, sudah official jadi Bantul kota kreatif ya, kota kreatif dan tadi belum di jok itu belum ya. Okay. Oh gitu. Yeah. So our government, like our region, like the government, like submit our Bantul, the city, as a folk art and creative city. And one thing that really interesting that the government is really encourage the people to work more on the work of art and craft that really related with recycle. So the recycle things. So how can we recycle and upcycle something from what we call like a trash of that kind of things become a work of art. Yeah. So hopefully, I don't know when is the decision is making that we can be like the city of folk art and creative city. Yeah, hopefully. So then, anytime you can visit us.
No worries. I think it's really exciting to consider recycling, upcycling, but also including in the design process or art creation process the life of the material.
Yeah.
So I didn't catch most of the presentation, but I realized there was a big conversation on plastics, the use of plastic, and the sort of ideas of questioning what's happening currently in the ecosystem. So I could catch a little bit of what was being presented earlier.
Yeah, well, and also actually, and tomorrow, one of our second day of the sharing session, tomorrow, one of our alumna, she works in like a foundation, what we call Saptali, and that's the organization of foundation that really works on thrifting and decluttering fashion. Because imagine they did like a lot of researches, and imagine that a fashion industry really, you guys really like create like 1,000 of like trash, seriously. So that's a really serious problem.
Lots of trash with the biggest polluters, but also when we start to look at the dye chemicals we use.
Yeah, totally.
And even everyday life now. So when we like to wear all of this clothes, we also like to wash them every day. So all of that laundry and how we use clothes.
Yeah.
So creating lots of tiny plastics in the oceans, lots of bigger problems that we're going to start to see. So there are lots of also really creative solutions. So confine themselves to these remote places.
Yeah, sorry. We have like two examples of the fashion that made up from that recycle things, like the thrifting fashions. Here, if we can see Mas Edi atau siapa? Bisa nggak itu kelihatan yang manekinnya? Bisa disorotnya ya? So that we can, I'm gonna show you two examples actually. The outer or fashion from thrift. Can you see? Oh, tapi mungkin taruh di mana gitu biar kelihatan bisa. Bisa. Diangkat aja, diangkat. Tolong Mas. Di tengah-tengah ya. Yeah. So here. Can you see it clearly? Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. See, this is satunya lagi mungkin bisa Caca. Dari ini Pak, dari apa baju-baju udah nggak kepake gitu diolah lagi terus. Yeah, see, this is, of course, this is only like a very small examples. And what they did is they make it and then they just like share it to the people on this, and then especially the young generation is really. Well, it's very impressive because the young generation feel proud of wearing those kind of fashion because they feel that they make a change in terms of global, global climate change, something like that. Global, yeah, like they did something for the earth,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah, the younger people are definitely really excited towards the ideas of fashion activism today. So by wearing clothes that have been upcycled, you almost become a bit of an activist. So you are sort of changing the world. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, at least, we did something positive for others. Right. Okay. I think we still have one last question. I don't know if it's going to be last, but maybe. So one of the students will ask you a question. Caca.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. One of maybe your students' project, when you guys, what you guys did in Bali, it was very interesting, and I was thinking about making the same kind of project, like similar to it, and I would really love to know the technique. What do you guys use? Like how you do that technique? Because like in the slide right after you show the batik stem, the one with leaf stem, it looks like you put leaf on the fabric and then you dye it, but the color covered by the leaf, that slide. Is it okay if you, can you please show it again?
Share my screen.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me see. So one of these slides.
Yes. Yeah, that one. The middle one. How do you guys do that?
So this was kind of interesting because what the student appreciated more was when the wax was still on the fabric. So this is something, so I will stop sharing and you can see my face. So what happened was that we used a batik stamp and we just had fun with it. So liberated herself with batik stamps. She used dye and let the dye sit on the wax, to which we photographed and we did digital print. So it was small batik stamp work mixed with digital print. So it was a combination of new techniques and old techniques.
Oh, so the leaf stem was, you made the stem first and not by the real leaf?
Oh no, it was made by, so it was a batik stamp, so made out of
okay.
It was a traditional batik stamp. So we have them as heritage stamps and we use them.
Oh, okay, because I thought you use eco print, like maybe another technique of eco printing. That's why it was.
We also do this. So if you're looking into doing things like this, you could look at hammering. So you could hammer or you could steam. Yeah, there's a lot of students that hammer or steam as well.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Questions more? Yeah, please, Pak Arif.
Baik, terima kasih. I want to answer to Martin. Usually have many people to give an opinion. Making a recycle product or upcycling, usually just have make a long time you use the product. Not that have not a good product and like a product alive for the global issue. But usually just make product just the make the long time for this product. But the new problem again, we have sometimes we make from plastic, making a recycle plastic, but we have make a recycle just the time just 3 months make not good again. Just what I say ya, sampah sampah what the meaning sampah in crush ya, have the crush and then the new crush from the product recycle from plastic. Or what do you think for the make product recycle, the good recycle, not have just on the make longer time for this product, but this truly for making a good global issues. Thank you for Martin. Yeah.
No, let me check if I understand properly. So it's a question of sort of like longevity. So do we need to make things last for much longer, or do we have short life for fashion or for plastic? So for me, as a designer, I think it's really important to encourage my students and other designers to question the life of a product. So how long should something survive? What's the function of that life? So most fashion and most clothes that we wear, sometimes they're staple, meaning that they'll last for a very long time. So, if I look in the audience and I can see, basic, you guys got shirts and trousers and different things, these things can last a lifetime. But if we use, just as we were being told about the craft artisans from Mexico being encouraged to use wool or cotton, if we use organic materials, they are easier to biodegrade. So for me, I think it really comes down to the fact that if you take something from the planet, it can go back to the planet without the harmfulness. And part of modern day society, so part of our lives, we like to preserve, meaning we want to keep everything as long as possible. But actually we need to accept that sometimes things will change. And just as people or animals, plants die, clothes will die. Your fashion will be ruined. You can stain it, rip it, create holes in it, or the color will change. This was an indigo jacket. It was much darker. Now, because I wear it, I wash it, I'm in the sun, the color changes. So you have to live with the idea of change. And it's something that we culturally have forgotten, because since, I don't know, maybe 60s, 70s, there's been a lot of synthetic fibers in fashion. So a lot of polyester, nylon, a lot of things that keep the color, but also have got bigger complications within our planet today. So all of these things we need to start to change, and it's more of a cultural problem. So understanding that when something has a little rip or you lose a button, it is so cheap to go buy a new jacket. Why do you need to sew the button back on or find a button? So it's about changing the culture and the way we live, and reintroduce to people skills, how to sew buttons or how to work with material, how to create things. So when it comes to the life of a product, it's really important to get the designers to think about that before they start to make. So it's not necessarily the end user, the consumer's problem. It's actually, I think, a bit earlier, the designer. So we need to start thinking about how things will be lived in, how things will be used in a culture. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question about maybe it's surrounding sort of the life of this materials. But I will say that not all materials are bad. And this is something that I was just quoted in a newspaper like last week, that polyester can be 100% biodegraded, and it can be chemically put back into a fiber. So if you're making polyester clothes and fashion, it can actually go back into a fiber and structure, be reknitted or woven. So it actually is probably less harmful than maybe nylon or other synthetics. We know that cotton or wool or other things, if you wanted to recycle these, you need to use a lot of new material. So it's not as healthy for the planet, perhaps. Yeah. Hope that's okay.
Okay. Satisfied, pardon. Satisfied. Okay. So Martin, I know this is really, it's going to be the last. So could you please tell us more about what do you mean with craft as a mode of communicating possibilities, as you said before?
Okay.
Tell us.
So for me, when I visit Indonesia, when I first visited Indonesia, for instance, I had rosy glasses on. I was, as you said, in love with Indonesia. Everything that I was watching and looking at, I was amazed by, until I went to tourist destinations and I saw them carving silly things or making silly things. That is when I was upset by it, because when I start to see tourists buying cheap batik or cheap ikat, I can understand why then my students from Indonesia or Malaysia would tell me that this is worn by the maid, that this is poor, this is cheap, and they don't wear it. They wear, I don't know, French fashion, they wear foreign fashion because they are of a social standing a little bit higher up. And this upsets me. So for me, we need to rethink what is craft. The craft artisans need to do something a bit different to invite new customers. They need to be also educated in the ways of art and design and not just craft. So it needs to be evolving. We need to rethink the ways of making. We need to rethink how we make, because it has to sustain a living. Craft cannot just be, your auntie doing backstrap loom with simple materials now. Just because something has been done this way for hundreds of years doesn't mean we cannot change it. And it has to invite new customer. It also has to be representational of the community. So our community has changed. Our community of people have changed. So should the symbols that represent the community. When did we stop, making new symbols? I get kind of upset sometimes when we see around the world people talk about cultural appropriation, that this is, I don't know, Indonesian, that this is, I don't know, British, that this is American. And I kind of think, well, hold on a second. Batik is Indonesian by, we can go to UNICEFCO, we can talk about the significance of that. But what I teach with my students is more wax resist. And if I use the words wax resist, I can do anything. And I think this is when we have the freedom as an artist, when we stop dreaming new things, when we stop making new things, I think is going to be a sad day. So the new possibilities is really coming from an arts design perspective to make sure that we're making things that people will buy, that people will want, not making cheap products for a tourist, right? We need to stop doing this. The tourist should invest in our culture, not, some sort of quickly produced, rubbish.
That's so cool. Yeah, cannot agree more. It's rethinking and revisit, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
rethinking and revisit. Okay, thank you so much, Martin. Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak. And absolutely, what you have to do next is doing like a collaborations with our students and with our lecturer here. You know, you won't be regret. You won't be disappointed because, yeah, you will see. We'll see. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think, yeah. Oh, thank God. It's really good that even though we start a little bit late, but we can finish like on time, like based on the schedule, based on the rundown. So that's really good to us. So also we let you know, I think you already know that tomorrow we still have the second day of our International Craft Day and our International Fashion Day. We still have a fashion show, and then we still have another sharing session, and we have a speakers from China. It's interesting because she's from Hunan Institute of Science and Technology. I don't know. I'm really excited to hear what she's gonna be talking about because it's technology, something that we cannot avoid right now, and also from Malaysia and yeah, the one our alumni from that organization that I've mentioned before. So yeah, please join us if you have any time. Okay, once again, thank you so much. Dan terima kasih sekali Pak Agus. Please give a big applause to our speakers. Yeah. And I got your email, your number. So if we have any questions, please, keep in touch. Oke, sebelumnya terima kasih banyak juga buat teman-teman semua hadirin yang sudah hadir, dan tentu saja kepada Pak Agus ini. Kami tahu sibuk sekali, tapi bersedia memberikan waktu ya, dan mudah-mudahan bisa terus ya Pak kolaborasi ya. Gitu. Untuk sharing session hari pertama kami cukupkan sampai di sini, dan waktu kami kembalikan ke pembawa acara atau master ceremony. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, so many interesting new information that we can get this afternoon, of course. Once again, we would like to thank you to Miss Cynthia Gomez, to Mr. Mr. Agus. I'm sorry, I'm forget. And Mr. Martin Boni.
Since all of the amazing speaker has shared their knowledge to us today, that means we have to come to the end of today's event. But don't worry, tomorrow we still have more bazaar, we still have more fashion show, and also we still have more amazing speaker from China, from Malaysia, from our alumni tomorrow in second session of sharing session.
Yeah, we hope the sharing session today can be useful and also can be source of inspiration for us to keep creating.
Thank you so much for everyone that has participated in today's event. After this, we will take pictures together. To all participants, guests, and speakers, may you please open the camera if you guys are still in the Zoom.
Ibu Alfi, mungkin kita juga bisa foto ya di sini. Ya. Kepada Bapak, Ibu, dan teman-teman semua yang masih ada di sini, silahkan maju ke depan agar kita bisa berfoto bersama. Silahkan Pak. Baik, terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman mahasiswa yang sudah hadir pada pagi sampai sore hari ini. Besok kita masih ada sharing session kedua. Jadi teman-teman diharapkan hadir kembali ke sini untuk mendengarkan pembicara-pembicara kita dari Cina, dari Malaysia, dari Telkom ya. Ya, dan lain-lain.